This program is a collaboration of personal opinions and individual free thought. It does not represent the views or narrative of the mainstream corporate media hacks. Viewer discretion is advised.
And here we go.
Live from the bell tower, taking a stand for your rights, your liberties, and all the bullshit in between. You're listening to Break the Bell Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live and welcome to the Break the Bell Podcast. It is a new year.
Hello, beautiful bell breakers, 2023.
It seems like it's been forever. Like
It has.
Well, it has been forever. Like we
has
did our Christmas episode, and then I was like,
so 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's been like 2 weeks because
insane.
after all the prep into our Christmas episode, I was like, you know what? I want a break. So, and you were gone anyway. I was like, man, I could
Screw
do
Bill.
Yeah, just screw Bill. I'm just going to take it off. So, but we are back. It is 2023, and we are coming back with a vengeance, and we're going to do things the right way. We have a special show lined up for you. We have an interesting guest. I think this is the first time we can have an accused domestic terrorist, at least that we know of.
Well, yeah, we don't know
that
what
we know of.
they're watching us. We know that. Right?
Yes. So we have ready and waiting in the waiting area, Brandon Caserta. He is one of the accused Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plotters, apparently, is what they're calling him these days. So we get to have him on, and he's going to share our story. We've talked about him a couple times. We talked about the Whitmer plot, and we talked specifically about Brandon a few times on the show. So it's nice to finally get him on the show and hear his side of the story and hear what's actually going on with him. You were saying that the trials were just like wrapping up with some of the,
Yeah, it sounds
the plotters.
like last week they were kind
it
of
was like
finishing up.
Some of them getting like 19 freaking years for
it's
the
insane.
bullshit. So I guess what we need to come to the conclusion of is this another like one of the forewarned domestic terrorism incidents that the FBI has warned us about for so long, or is this another classic case of FBI entrapment and FBI screw up and
trying to make it look like there's more there.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we're going to find out when we get Brandon on. Before we do, we got to get through the pre-show here. We got to obviously tell you to check us out all over social media. If you are new to this show, share it far and wide. If you've stumbled across us, share us with your friends and your families. Let's make this a new year. Let's reach out to more and more people. Make this thing a bigger and better thing so we can continue to do what we do just for more people, because
Absolutely.
that's what we enjoy. You can find us all over social media at the handle at Break the Bell Pod. That's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and probably others too that we signed up for, but we don't spend a lot of time on. So if you are on a social media platform that you want to know if we're on, if we're not on it, just let us know and we'll get on it and we'll hang out there, because we like to hang out. We like to stretch ourselves as thin as freaking possible,
Right.
because I mean that's mentally
American way.
Yeah, that's mentally healthy to
Sure.
just stretch yourself as thin as possible. So that's what we enjoy doing. You can also find all the links to all our stuff at our website, which is www.breakthebellpod.com. You can find links to our merch store, where you can get awesome merch, like some of these shirts here. We have the I Won't Eat Your Bug shirt, which is the Anti-Cricket Brigade.
Yes.
So if you want to become a member of the Anti-Cricket Brigade and join the thousands and millions of us that are against the insistence of us eating crickets for a living, buy that shirt. Also, we have the We Are Not Your Pawn shirt. We have some logo merch. We also have I still don't have the picture of it here.
Yeah.
Is this shirt even real?
Right.
Maybe the shirt's not even real.
It
That's
might
why I
not
don't
be.
ever
That's
pull
the
the
whole
image up.
twist.
Yes. So find links to all that, our merch store, and all our social media at breakthebellpod.com. I think that's about it.
I think so. Give us feedback. Love us, hate us. Let us know.
Yeah, if you hate us specifically, let us know.
Yes,
because
we love that.
Yeah, we
love that you hate us.
We thrive on your hatred, so let us know. The comment section is always open on YouTube, on Facebook. We have a Facebook forum, which is the Breaking the Bell forum, which you can come hang out and have conversations and stuff. It's been a while since I've done this. It's been 2 weeks, so I'm kind of rusty.
No, I
so I'm
understand
trying to keep up. So yeah, check out all that stuff. Check out our Patreon page. You can sign up and subscribe at patreon.com/break the bell. You can support us a little more than just listening to us, which ideally we want you to listen to us. But if you want to do and give a little more, patreon.com/break the bell, I think. Yes, that's it. We got Brandon in the waiting room, and I am really rusty, so we're going to get right into this intro video. And when we come back, we're going to be talking with alleged domestic terrorist Brandon Caserta. We'll be right back.
What did you say?
You talking to me?
What the heck are you talking about?
What did you say?
What did you say?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What do you say?
What did you say?
Are you talking to me?
Well, maybe he was talking to me.
What did you say?
Talk to me.
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
Talk to me, baby.
What did you just say?
What did you say?
You listen to me. Are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me?
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Accused and Acquitted. Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plotter Brandon Caserta. Am I saying that right, Brandon? Is it Caserta? How do you pronounce that?
Well, to be honest, it actually sounds sweeter when you say Caserta because it's Italian, but I usually just say Caserta.
All right. Well, what would you like us to say? Because if you want the sweet Italian version, then fine. But the ginger beard kind of gives away the fact that you're not really Italian. So,
I mean, I'm a half and half. I'm a day walker, so it's like I can be out in the sun, but I'm a ginger at the same time.
That's
it's weird. I like Caserta though.
You like Caserta? We'll call you Caserta then. Welcome to the show, Brandon. Brandon, this like we said, this might be the first time we've had a domestic terrorist on our show that we know of. So it's really a pleasure to have you on. I'm sure you've heard that way too many times, and obviously we say it as a joke because we think the whole moniker is just bullshit anyway. Right. First, I got to point out, I mentioned your ginger beard. I find it interesting. I grew my beard out. I had a guy at a job probably 6 months ago that he's like, man, your beard's coming in nice. You look like you're going for the Proud Boys look. Like, what is it with ginger beards and the Proud Boys or domestic terrorist look? I just got to know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I wouldn't know anything about that.
Is it like in the description, like when you're filling out the application, because I had seen, and we'll get into all this stuff. One of the FBI informants that was like, oh, I had to fill out almost like a job application to get into the what was the name of the group that you were part of?
Wolverine Watchman.
The Wolverine Watchman. He's like, is that part of the job application? It's like, do you or do you not possess a sweet ginger beard? Is that part of the requirements?
I just feel like, I'm such a gnarly ass metal dude that the music I listen to is so heavy that my beard just automatically grows gnarly like that.
It's got to be it. It's got to be it. And the gauges too. You got the gauges like me, and you got the ginger beard. So, man, you gotta get the gauges and dye your beard red or something because you're not fitting in. So, Brandon, I've been following you for a while now. You were on a friend of mine's show, the No Way Jose podcast, probably 4 or 5 months ago, and I've been following you ever since and following your story. And obviously, we've discussed the Whitmer plot story several times. So it's great to finally have you on the show and talk about this stuff because who's a better person to discuss it with than somebody that's
lived it
and been in this. So I guess, where do you want to start with this? Because I mean, I've heard your story, and man, there's so much to it. So I want to get like a brief recap of like October of 2020, or actually possibly how you even got involved in this group, the Wolverine Watchmen, and just go from there, and just let us know what you want to talk about, because you run the show here, because we just want to hear from you, and we want to hear your story.
Right on. Well, one of the main things I kind of want to focus on is this. They say that there was this conspiracy to, arrest this woman, right, or snatch and grab, whatever. Mm-hmm. That conspiracy's fake. There's a whole nother conspiracy involved in the government, where government agents are actually conspiring against you.
Right.
Anyone who cares about freedom, anyone who, sees what they're doing and they don't agree with it, anyone that actually espouses correct ideas, whether it's about Second Amendment rights, First Amendment rights, these are all things that I was specifically targeted for. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing is a mass attempt to create deception socially in society to get other people to think that people who might be libertarian or anarchist or talk about these ideas, that they're crazy lunatics, that they just go and shoot guns, they don't care about life. And in reality, that's why we talk about this stuff. That's why we have podcasts. That's why we speak truth, is because we care about life and we care about freedom, and I just wanted to, make a point that I was targeted for my beliefs specifically.
It's funny, Brandon, because if you read your your co-defendants and yourself profile on Wikipedia,
I was just about to pull that up.
It just reads like any normal person who like has an issue with the current government. I mean, it's funny because it's like there's nothing that makes me be like, oh wow, they said that. I mean, it's like, criticizes Biden, criticizes vaccines, a supporter of Second Amendment.
Right. Here's what it says specifically about you on Wikipedia, which I'm sure you've read this, but it says Brandon Caserta. So this is how vile of a human you are.
Yes.
Brandon Caserta.
Top 10.
Caserta, whatever. Caserta, because it sounds better, was shown wearing a Hawaiian-style shirt associated with the Boogaloo movement on TikTok videos and Facebook. And he praised Kyle Rittenhouse, a civilian who shot 3 protesters. In August, Caserta, also a COVID-19 denier and supporter of the QAnon conspiracy theory, however, in one video criticized Trump and called him a tyrant. His belief system apparently became more extreme following Whitmer's implementation of statewide lockdowns. His social media activity originally consisted of posts about comedy and shows and podcasts. But following the lockdown, he began liking posts about conspiracy theories regarding Bill Gates, as well as memes about hog-tying police officers. So
I think I've done all those things.
I know for a fact I've done all those things. So that's your vile.
I like my Hawaiian shirts.
Right.
So it's like
I don't think
they're trying.
I don't think I've seen that before.
I was just going to. This is on the Wikipedia page for the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot. So if you scroll down through like the participants, you have a highlighted section, and that's what it says about you. And it's just like, oh God, he'd like to
lock your doors.
He's liking posts and wearing Hawaiian shirts, and he supports Kyle Rittenhouse. You're obviously a terrorist.
Right. Crazy.
It's like they're just trying to connect dots.
Right.
Make dots to connect, first of all, because obviously the Hawaiian shirts did tie to the Boogaloo movement, but then you obviously got to throw in there the Kyle Rittenhouse and the COVID denial and all this stuff that it's obviously just a formula for domestic terrorism. It's insane, their definition of domestic terrorists these days, and what they're pulling up just to make a case against you, I guess. And they even went as far to say, you did deny Trump at one point, but I'm sure they were like really doing mental gymnastics
Right.
on that one. They're like, how is this guy not a Trump supporter? Look at him. He's got a ginger beard and he shoots guns.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that whole narrative fell apart really quick because, I remember in the beginning when I was talking to family on the phone when I was in jail, and they were like, yeah, they keep saying you're the leader of this and that you're a Trump supporter and everything like that. And then one of the Communist News Network, I think it was, they posted some video that I made where I was just chilling in my apartment, kind of trashing on Trump because he's obviously not pro Second Amendment, if he wants to ban bump stocks illegitimately. But, I said he was a tyrant and things like that. And then that totally threw their narrative away because their whole goal is to try to put you in a box. They have to put you on a box and slap a label on it so they can call you something. And the problem that I gave them is they can't put me in a box.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I believe so many different things that it's not just this one thing over here, that one thing over there where they can put a label on it, and that's the type of people that are a threat to their narrative because truth is way more powerful than that.
Well, yeah, that makes you so much more dangerous because they can't just put a single label on you. Well, he's just another Trump supporter. Right. Obviously, he's going to go. Well, yeah, the problem is their problem is people that actually think for themselves. Because if you start thinking for yourself, then they can't put labels on you. They can't just throw you in this box, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, what else do we got on this guy? Well, he wears Hawaiian shirts, so obviously he's a threat there. But back to what you were saying about this plot against us. We've talked about this in several episodes. We talked about the Oklahoma City bombing. We've talked about Waco, and we've tied all of it together in just like this. First of all, massive FBI fuck-ups all the time, and then obviously this seemingly plot or like almost false flag type narrative where they're making something and then it goes wrong or it goes the way they want it to, and then they peg it back on these insurrectionists or these anti-government sentiment type people like yourself, obviously.
Yeah.
And then obviously they can use that to make a big narrative. Well, look, like back in the days of the Oklahoma City bombing, like the whole anti-government movement all went totally underground after that because they made this big giant thing which had all the fingerprints of the FBI all over it, and then all of a sudden it had to move underground because nobody wants to be associated with the Oklahoma City bombing. And it's kind of similar with like this, with like your case, and then also right after that, the January 6th thing. It's just like, well, nobody wants to be connected to those, so maybe we should start doing this a little quieter or start like avoiding certain conversations and stuff because the FBI is all on us.
Right. And like with January 6th, I mean, all this just seems like, again, it's just a lot of fluff. It's like just a lot of, well, this is this and this and this, and in reality, it was jack shit.
So
yeah, it's just a bunch of guys, saying things that, could be considered offensive to like soft people, but that's really what it is it's fluff, it's storytelling, it's really good storytelling. And, we know that the state is continuously engaging in psyops and all of these different operations to try to influence people mentally, to get them to believe certain things so that they can simply control them and take their wealth.
Right. Were you shocked when the FBI showed up to like take you in? I mean, were you just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it was weird because, I had 15 guys like tackle me down to the ground and start rummaging through my pockets and stuff.
Jeez,
and I was at work. So like,
it was an all-out FBI raid basically on you.
Yeah. I walked into this dark like room or whatever, and I was like, wait, what? And my boss kind of led me in there. He didn't know what was going on, but they none of them said FBI. None of them were wearing like an FBI shirt or anything like that. They were just had like, the blue jean shorts or whatever, or the pants and the flannel, and then they had baklavas over their face and just, were yelling at me, tucking me down the ground. I'm thinking to myself, like, who are you? Like, what the fuck is this? They're like, stop resisting. I'm like, I'm literally not doing anything. Who the fuck are you?
First of all, you have every right to resist because they have no identification as a police officer. So it could be anybody tackling you to the ground. You have every right to throw fists or pull. Yeah, I don't know if Michigan's a carry state. I don't think it is because it's freaking Michigan. But whatever
Right.
self-defense, you have the right to self-defense if they have not identified themselves and they're just tackling you to the ground. Like, who the
Yeah.
fuck are you? Like you said.
I mean, did you get the sense they wanted you to resist so that they could like give you the business?
Yeah, because they were escalating it so quick. And I've looked into the psychology of order followers and these people that like a lot of authoritarian cops and stuff like that. And some of these guys, they want to, when they hurry up and escalate the situation when there's really nothing going on, that's how they want to use violence.
Right.
They've been preparing for it for weeks. They've been training for it. They want to use violence against someone they don't like, and I could kind of sense that. So I'm like, well, it's better if I just, don't do anything. I mean, there's 15 people.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's nothing I can really do at this point.
Right. So can you take us back a little bit to how did you get involved in this group from the start? Like, how did you get into this group? I'm sure you didn't go in like, I want to join this group that with the plan to kidnap a governor. I'm sure that's not how you got involved in this group. There's not job ads out there. It's like, do you want to kidnap the governor of Michigan? Join now.
Yeah, well, what's funny is that's how the prosecution tried to portray it, as if like we were engaged in this massive recruiting, experiment to try to just, like, we want to do DT. We got to do DT, domestic terrorism. We got to do it. Right. And it wasn't like that at all. It was back when COVID happened. I got laid off work. So I didn't suffer at all through the pandemic. Like, I literally like collected unemployment or whatever and got the extra money and got 3 months essentially paid vacation. It's not like, dude, Gretchen Whitmer, she's a communist tyrant. You know what I'm saying? But like, did she harm my life in such a way where it's like, oh my God, I got to get revenge? No, not at all. She had zero effect on me. I didn't follow any of the rules. You know what I mean? And I did my own thing. And my main concern about when that happened was, when I was laid off from work, I was trying to look for groups of people who were into training with firearms, and I'd been doing that for a couple years prior to this, but just kind of doing it on my own. And I wanted to go outside and, summer was coming and, I want to go outside and do stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe I need to kind of reach out to some people and see what's going on. And one of those guys actually hit me up and was like, hey, I got some property that was only like an hour away from me. And he's like, hey, I got some steel targets and some barrels and stuff. And to me, that's like, fuck yeah, bro. Like, oh, you got property, we can shoot guns, you got hanging steel targets, and let's go, And so he invited me out, and that's how I kind of started to associate with them. But one thing I really want to make clear is that they keep saying that I was a member of the Wolverine Watchmen. I never, ever was a member of that group. Number one, that name is gay as shit. And I would never associate with fucking the Wolverine Watchmen, bro. That shit sounds lame as fuck.
You didn't have like gang symbols or something like a Wolverine
symbol?
No,
dude, there was no patches, no hand signals, no initiation thing. It was just like these two guys that had this property that were related. It was like kind of their thing. But essentially what it was is it was a chat. It was a chat group that had that name, and that chat group essentially would invite people over who were interested in the Second Amendment, you know what I mean, who kind of realized what was going on in the world and understood that we need to organize to defend our freedom and defend our rights, and that was the commonality of most of us. And some people lacked in training and some people were better, but we all kind of had that commonality. And even some people, like, their political beliefs weren't the same as mine. And my idea was like, well, I can at least go here and get some training. And even though everyone might not align with everything that I believe in, maybe I can spread the message of anarchy. You know what I mean? And if they're already at libertarianism, maybe I can get them over that hump right there and they can go to anarchism. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that was kind of my goal with that. And I had no idea that the first training event that I showed up at, I literally walked into a domestic terrorism investigation.
Wow. So there was already informants on site, like infiltrated in the group by the time you got there. So
exactly.
So now the case goes, according to Wikipedia, that like 6 people were indicted on federal charges and like 7 on federal and then 7 just on like state, like assistant charging and stuff like that. Now you were one of the 7 that got like slapped with federal charges. So it sounds like you are, based on what they're saying, you were one of the main guys. How is it that you got considered one of the main inner circle of this thing? Because from the way it sounds, there wasn't any sort of organization whatsoever, but it sounds like they're putting you like dead center of like almost dead center of this thing because you're one of the 7 with the federal charges.
Right, exactly. And, this group that I was very lightly associated with, it was pretty disorganized, but you had government agents and informants trying desperately to have some sort of like organization, and how I fit in the puzzle was I was essentially like the perfect character for them, for their play. Mm-hmm. Like they already had this idea of this movie that they wanted to play out, and the state is really good at co-opting organic social situations and then turning them and transforming them into something wrong so that they can use force against it and act like they're the saviors. Mm-hmm. They already had that plan when I came in, and someone like me, to someone who might not know me or have talked to me or share any ideas that I have, could look at me and be like, oh my God, like he's got a throat tat, he's got tattoos on his hand, he's got big gauges, he's kind of verbose and a little bit loud, he might sound intense or whatever. And I openly told everyone, like, yo, I'm an anarchist, bro, no government. I think society would work much better voluntarily. You know what I'm saying? All pro free market, pro Second Amendment, all that shit. But that's what I believe. And it's like, once they first caught wind of, he said he was an anarchist, you know what I'm saying? They knew that they could try to portray that to be something else. And I barely ever talked about the governor at all. I mostly talked about mandatory vaccines, like prepping and shit, and then police brutality. I was criticizing police a lot, because ultimately they're the enforcers of slavery when tyranny comes down. So I think the politicians and shit like that, to me, they're puppets. I'm not really worried about them or concerned about what they believe and what they're going to do. I'm more concerned and focused on the people that are going to follow their orders. And I like to pay attention to what those people are thinking and doing. And they figured they could take that dynamic and play it out to a jury and be like, look at these crazy radical ideas that this person has. He believes in freedom. What? That's so dangerous.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it is like, well, first of all, there's still to this day, like so much stigma just around the term anarchist, because you think anarchists, you think these people that just want to go blow shit up and just blow up government buildings and shit. That's what people's mindset gets with anarchists, when all anarchist is somebody that doesn't want the freaking government at all in their lives. They don't just not want them in their lives, they just don't want the government at all. And I don't know about you, but I can definitely get on board. I lean more towards anarchist than anything else, because we all see how much all sides of the government just fucks it all up for all of us. So when they can use a term that's got such negative connotation already, like anarchist, they can already slap something on you because, oh, this is a scary anarchist. You've seen anarchists. You remember anarchists back in the 60s. You remember, I don't know. It's just, it's a stigmatizing term, in my opinion.
And like Craig was saying, you fit the narrative, the mold, right? As far as appearance goes, for somebody that they could slap on a poster and say, "Hey, look, that guy's scary."
Obviously,
right? And so that's probably why they just kind of lumped you in with that federal 7 and just kind of went with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I brought up, which they kind of hyper focused on, is number one, my books. Like, I have certain beliefs, but the difference between me and some of the other people is I know how to articulate those beliefs. Like, I can argue my position. I know what I believe in, and I read, and I'm educated in that manner. So they wanted to use my books against me and things like that. But there's like a forbidden thing that I realized this a couple years ago, but there's like a forbidden thing that you cannot talk about, right? And you can't even talk about it in a hypothetical scenario. Like, to ever hypothesize about using defensive force against agents, that is like a sin, like as if that's never happened in history ever. Right. But like, when you bring that up, what if it happened now? What would you do? You know, it's like a sin, and you're just crazy if you even talk about it.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, I think one of the things that one of the articles brought up is that you had said that at some point it's going to come down to they're going to pull the trigger, and when they pull the trigger, I'm going to make sure I take everyone, as many out as I can in the process. Like, to me, that blatantly sounds like self-defense, like you defending yourself, your family, and everybody around you. But the way they portrayed it was, this guy just wants to go kill cops, or this guy just wants to go kill federal people. It's like, but it's not what the sentence was at all.
And it's no different from anything you or I have said. If we said something like they were coming for our children, what would you do? Right. Right. So, I mean, it's just Second Amendment locker room talk. Is that what you call it? I mean, you know, basically just, you know, it's not something that you're actually planning out. It's just saying, like, look.
They're going to come knocking on our door now.
Well, I figured that. That's where we're at your house.
So, at any point while you're in this group, the chat group, or shooting guns, or whatever this group was, at any point was there red flags to you that went off, that you're like, something is weird going on here, something's not right? Or did you suspect there was informants, or did somebody bring something up that you're just like, that raises a red flag to me?
You know, there was a moment when that happened, but the majority of, you know, I got involved with these guys and started training with these guys maybe once or twice a month. And then I was in a chat group from, I would say it was like mid-June. And then I got arrested in October. So like 3 or 4 months, you know, I'm kind of associating with some people in a chat group, and there's a couple of chat groups, and, you know, those chats are mainly like, you get a bunch of gun dudes together, there's going to be shit posting everywhere, memes, you know, gun talk, just all of that stuff. And that's mostly what the chat rooms were about. And then you meet up like once or twice at someone's property and do a little bit of training. You might talk a little bit of philosophy or current events or something like that. But it was never some like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I got to get out of here. It was never like that. But I believe one moment, because, you know, when you get involved in some of these groups, you have to be intelligent enough to realize that, could there be a Fed in here? You know, there's a bunch of people that you don't necessarily know. Like, you're going and training at some guy's property and he seems cool or whatever, but there's like 20 other people there. And it's, you know, such and such, this is friend and their friend and all that. You don't really know who a lot of the people are. These people are from different states and stuff like that. So you have to have that in the back of your mind. And I remember I wanted to have like a little meeting to talk about current events and ways that we might be able to protect ourselves if certain things happened. And nobody showed up. It was hard for a lot of the people to really kind of hone in on anything serious. There was just a lot of shit talking, but the only person that did show up was the informant, right? And he showed up with a recording device. And me and my attorney, we brought this up in court because it's like, they're using all of the stuff that I might have said to someone else that sounds offensive about police or whatever, but they didn't use anything that the 4-hour meeting that I had with this informant, they didn't use any of that. Like, so you have 4 hours with my client and nothing, you get nothing. So we kind of showed how he tried to draw up something negative that I could say by bringing up something that I don't necessarily agree with or like, and get me to kind of talk about that. But when I invited him in my house, I showed him my one of my ARs, and he wouldn't he wouldn't grab it. Like, I'm like, here, dude, you know what I'm saying? Check it out. And he was like hesitant to touch it. And I'm like, why doesn't this guy want to touch my gun, bro?
Right,
Like,
yeah,
that's
right.
suspicious as fuck. If I'm having any of my boys over or anything, and I know that they like guns, the first thing you're doing, oh, yo, check out my FN. You know what I mean? Check this out. And you check it out. You check the chamber, unload it, whatever, you know, and test it out. And you're like, oh, this is sweet, bro. You know what I mean? You give it back to him. He didn't do that. When he did that right there, I said, dude, this guy is a fucking fed or something.
Right.
You know,
like,
that's just the weirdest shit.
I was just over at a friend's for New Year's Eve, and the first thing he said was, hey, come check out my new toy. And he pulls out this new AR a guy gave him for doing a job for him. And yeah, the first thing I did, grab it, clear it, and like, oh, this thing's sweet. I mean, yeah. Then I pull out my carry pistol. I'm like, here, check out the new carry pistol I got. And passing them around, that's what you do in that setting. I've never gone to a place where they're like, hey, check out my new gun, and be like, whoa, I don't want to touch.
Right.
Like,
whoa, you have a gun?
yeah, especially in a quote unquote gun club or whatever. It's like, hey, we're all part of this gun club. Check out my gun. Oh, I don't feel comfortable touching your rifle there, and it's like, yeah, that would scream fed to me.
Yeah.
I definitely know now if somebody doesn't want to touch my weapons, then they're probably fed. We just lost Brandon.
Lost him.
Well, we're gonna hopefully hopefully he didn't get taken out by the Fed for talking. We're gonna wait for him to jump back in, but we're talking with Brandon Caserta. There he is. I lost you.
Yeah, the stream just cut off on me. That was crazy.
Yeah, I think the Feds cut us off.
Fuck them.
So, you're talking about the things that you said, like, to other people and how they're taking it out of context. There's this video out there. I want to play devil's advocate and let you maybe defend this video. And it's about you talking about a recon mission. And I'm sure you're aware of this video. Do you mind if I play this?
Yeah, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
All right, I want to make sure before I do. Here, I want you to defend what you're saying, because this is one of the things that they are using to make this picture of you as a terrorist.
If we're doing a recon or something and we come up on some of them, dude, you better not give them a chance. You either tell them to go right now or else they're going to die, period.
Video evidence showing.
So that's the video evidence that was played at your trial, I'm pretty sure. What was going on there? Like, I'm sure that was 3 seconds of video that I'm sure they probably took way out of context. If not, I'll let you defend it as much as you can.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Something that they like to do is they like to clip things in half and not provide the entire context to them. So there was actually 2 videos. The one that I made right before that was talking about how I got pulled over, how it was unjust, how they violated the 4th Amendment, how they said they didn't give a shit about the Constitution, and they essentially victimized me, right? And then extorted me. And I explained that and how I was pissed off about that. Like, I was pissed because I don't like being harassed by other men who think they have dominion over me. And, I always carry a firearm. So, when I was pulled over, if I get pulled over, the cops, I let them know, hey, I have a firearm on my person. I have a CPL, blah, blah, blah. The interaction is fine. I'm not going to do anything. They're going to do what they're going to do. You know what I mean? I'm going to live to fight for freedom for another day, right? But I'm definitely pissed about it that I have to spend all of this money, and I'm definitely going to express how fucking pissed off I am about that bullshit. And that's what I was doing. And what they tried to do is, what I was actually talking about is another hypothetical situation. And what I was saying was, if there's some sort of societal collapse or power outage and things are going really, really bad, there's going to be a lot of chaos involved in that. And, someone who might be your neighbor knows that you have certain things. They're going to come try to take that shit. There's going to be a lot of things. And then if that happens, then the state's going to come down and they're going to crack down on everyone. And with the lockdowns that just happened, it was my concern that there was going to be some sort of bad event and then lockdowns were going to happen again and the state was going to roll in. Now, look, if that happens, I'm leaving. Like, I don't give a fuck if you say I'm quarantined or not, bro. I'm getting the fuck out of here. You're not going to keep me in this cage where there's a bunch of violent fucking people stealing people's shit. So I was saying that, hey, these dudes that just harassed me out on the street, if we come up across any fucking agents like that, dude, you better not fuck with me. Don't fuck with me if you're going to allow people like that, if shit's really going down, to fucking take our guns and take our shit away. Don't fuck with me if you're down with that. And I told them, hey, if we come up on some people like that, like, for example, if we're in that kind of disaster scenario, you're going to have to do a recon. You're going to have to look at the area and surveil it and see if it's safe to move around. You could be needing to get water. You could be needing to get another friend. You could be needing to get anything you could think of as a hypothetical situation. You would need to do a recon for that. And because I said that word, recon, they wanted to use that and make it seem like I was talking about the recon that they just did or whatever. Right. And they tried to say I knew about it and I went and everything, which that was a total lie. And we proved that in court. But like I said, this is like a hypothetical situation of me essentially saying, look, these tyrants with this type of ideology, you need to either tell them to leave, like, hey, leave us alone, or else we're going to defend ourselves, and that's not extreme to say that against tyrants.
Well, it's all things that we've said here on the show. I mean, we did like a 2-part series of, hey, if the shit hits the fan, right. These are the things that you should look for. These are the things you should prep for. This is what you should do. You should hook up with like-minded people who have certain skills, particularly like weapon skills and also survival skills on top of that. I mean, we've all talked about these things, right. But it sounds like they were really grasping at straws at your trial, trying to come up with everything that they could clip together to present a case. Was that how the entire trial went? Was it pretty outrageous, just like this clip here, or was there? I mean, did they have anything solid, really?
No, they had absolutely nothing solid. But like you just said, Craig, that was the main thing that they were trying to do, is use deception and manipulation and clip a lot of the stuff out. I mean, dude, they used like conversations that I had with someone who, like, on Facebook, like a year before I got arrested, they dug through all of my stuff and said, oh, here's him talking about the Second Amendment. You know what I mean? And what it really means. Mm-hmm. And, they played it in court because they could just call a witness up who's an agent who was monitoring me or whatever, call them up and say, hey, did you read this thing that Mr. Caserta said? Oh, yeah, we read it. Okay, now we get to bring it in and use it as evidence against him. And essentially it's like, look at what he's saying. It's offensive and wrong. So you should just convict him. It has nothing to do with the governor at all. It's not an agreement to kidnap the governor. It's not an overt act to do anything against the governor at all. It's just rhetoric that is, considered offensive to soft, weak people. And because of that, you should put him in jail for this fucking crime.
Now, at any point, did you get wind of any kind of plot against the governor, or did you hear any chatter through your chats or anything? Did you have any idea that there was anything towards the governor going on, other than just shit talk?
Yeah, and see, that's the thing. It was mostly shit talk, right? Like, a lot of people talked about the governor. A lot of people talked about that bitch.
We talked about her. Yeah, right.
Right, exactly. And that's the type of shit that was being spoken about. I went to one training event, and this was like at a training event in Luther. This was like the last training we had, where they said that they went to her cottage and surveilled it, but they never found it because the FBI gave the informant the wrong address. So they just drove around the area, right, and never even was close to her place because Adam Fox and those guys forgot where it was. They didn't even know where it was at. You know what I'm saying? So when, something was brought up like, hey, do you want to go or whatever? I'm like, what are you guys doing? It's like, oh, we're going to go, we're going to go for a little ride and do some land nav and check the shit out or whatever. And I'm like, oh, like, what are you going to do? Like TP her house or something? Like it's it's like September, you know what I mean? It's some random like little blue house. And you're telling me that's her place? Like, I don't even know if I believe you. This is kind of a joke, right? So I literally just was like, oh, okay, bro, cool. And then walked away and continued to fucking drink beer and talk shit around the campfire, because that's why the fuck I came all the way out there, was to shoot guns and do that. You know?
So I want to talk about the FBI involvement, because I mean we talked a little bit, but I want to dig into it because there's a lot of FBI involvement in this, because like we said, 14 people total were arrested, and from what I've read, 12 people there was 12 FBI agents or informants. So almost like as many people that were arrested were also, there was also that many FBI agents or informants on the scene. So I want to get into that, but before I do, I want to play this little clip to get your blood boiling, because you haven't heard her voice enough.
Were preparing to kidnap and possibly kill me. When I put my hand on the Bible and took the oath of office 22 months ago, I knew this job would be hard. But I'll be honest, I never could have imagined anything like this. I want to start by saying thank you to our law enforcement. Thank you to the fearless FBI agents.
Thank you to the fearless FBI agents that had as much of a hand in all of this as all the people that were arrested about this. Now, first of all, did that sound like somebody, because that was the day that everybody got arrested, did that sound like somebody that was fearful for her life?
No, it sounded like she was pretty happy, actually.
No.
Yeah, she was smiling.
Yeah,
Well,
she was like, this is going to get me reelected.
Right. She knew about it, bro.
Yeah.
She knew about it, and that came out in court, and none of the mainstream media said shit about it, because when I first associated with these guys, there was like kind of some rhetoric about the governor and stuff, mainly from the FBI's informants, right? So what they did was, in like the beginning of August or late June or something, you know, the defense team finds out that they went in and installed pole cameras and trail cams and all this shit around that house, right? Mm-hmm. So when they did that, they had to get her permission to do that. And then it came out in court where it was like, well, was there a plan to kidnap the governor at this point in time? And they were like, no, there wasn't a plan to do that. No one was going to do it, but they agreed to it later, right? Like afterwards. That's the type of shit they were saying. It's like, well, dude, she knew that the FBI was already there putting up and setting up surveillance equipment around your property. So you're sitting here saying, oh, you know, I just realized this shit. Bitch, you knew the whole fucking time, bro. What are you talking about? Right. You were involved in this shit, dude. It was you and your people.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that they didn't concoct the idea when, before the plot ever existed, they were planting cameras around her property. It was just in case this group that were infiltrating decides a month from now to decide to do this thing. We're gonna put it sounds, if they're putting up cameras, it sounds like they are planning the event themselves. Right. What were the cameras for? Did they just want to get it on national television, have live footage?
Right.
Like, yeah, I've never heard of a scenario like this where they are like uncovering this plot, and then all of a sudden they just happen to have cameras planted around that property ahead of time.
Well, there's a few reasons for that. Number one, you have certain domestic terrorism investigations that occur, right? Now, those are regular ones. The biggest one you can ever have is called a TEI, and that's called a terrorist enterprise investigation. Jason Chambers, the lead handling agent on this case, we discovered text messages from him to other FBI agents and other people, this shit that was on his phone, you know what I mean, that we were able to get, and emails and stuff, where he's saying, yo, I'm going to get a TEI, whether they like it or not. Like, I'm going to beat them over the head with this TEI until they comply. That's fucking quotes from him. So this is like in March, you know what I'm saying? Where they might have some little investigation on someone where they're looking at someone, but you have Jason Chambers and these other agents who are like, dude, we need a fucking TEI, dude. You know what I'm saying? That's what we really need. And you look through some of the discovery, bro, they're flying over my apartment with spy planes, literally, dude, with fucking infrared vision. And I'm looking on the computer while I'm in jail. Like, bro, they were following me to work in a fucking plane, like a drone. You know what I'm saying? And they were doing this to everybody. They spent millions and millions and millions of dollars because once you get the TEI approved, now you can get a massive amount of money to do certain types of surveillance operations and pay informants more money. If you just make it sound like it's something a lot more than it is, you get the TEI. And then, hey, if you're Jason Chambers and you plan on leaving the FBI next year and you have a private intelligence company called Exa Intel that you keep telling people about, you know, you're going to get it off the ground and get it going, and you're going to be a millionaire because you're, you know, securing deals with other corporations and government entities to provide them actionable intelligence to law enforcement. Well, hey, what better would it, you know, how good would it for you to have the biggest TEI you've ever had in your life, and then to say you stopped it all from happening, so you should purchase Exa Intel's monitoring and surveillance equipment and skills because it's the safest and best around, you know?
It's like the big revolving door between government and private agencies that we've talked about so many times. You go from the government, you build up this side thing, then you go work for that, and then you just go back and forth, and you reap the benefits of it. Now, a couple informants that it lists on the Wikipedia page, they talk about Big Dan Chappell. Were you familiar with him? Did you come in contact with him? He was supposedly the guy that said he had to fill out like a job application to get into this group because he was looking for Second Amendment groups like yourself on Facebook, and then he came across this group and he's like, oh, this group is really fishy, and then somehow he became an informant. He got involved with the FBI and filled out this rigorous job application and got into the group. So tell me a little bit about Big Dan.
Yeah, so just like Dan Harris said on the stand in federal court, Big Dan is a bitch, straight up. And I'll say that to his face right fucking now. Don't care. He's a big fat bitch. Anyways, what's funny.
Oh, we lost him again. What the hell? What is going on?
Big Dan did
not like being called a bitch. They're like, you're not going to talk about Big Dan like that. We're going to kick him off. Hopefully we can get him back. Here he is.
With me right now. They're fucking with me right now, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah, Big Dan didn't like you calling him a bitch.
Right. Yeah, fucking assholes. Anyways, so what I was saying is that got proven wrong and got proven as a lie in state court because, you know, they said that Dan Chappell was this guy just looking for, you know, Second Amendment people and stuff like that. First of all, this guy was a combat army veteran who has legit fighting skills, gunfighting skills. Why would you look for some group of like younger guys who aren't really trained very well? Like, they're not going to make your skills better, dude. You know what I'm saying? You should be hanging out with operators and shit, right? So that was suspicious. Now, they said that they wanted to launch the TEI investigation and everything because there was certain things that was said in the chat, and that someone was telling someone to download this application to where you could find law enforcement's addresses and go after them or harm them or whatever, right? So in state court, they asked about that, and they asked if the FBI, like this information that Dan Chappell said that he had, you know, do you still have that? Like the messages that he showed you guys about why you guys need to go over here, do you have any of that stuff? And they didn't have any of it, bro. They just literally said, well, they said it. And it's like, okay, well, did anyone have this application downloaded on their phone? No, nobody did. So it's like, you guys are literally just saying something happened when it totally didn't. And come to find out, you know, I believe, me and my team, we believe that because Dan Chappell had said to the agents on the phone with them, like, hey, man, I'm just trying to build my resume. You know what I'm saying? I'm building my resume by being an informant with you guys. So I think that he kind of knew them prior, and they just so happen to kind of come up across this group that they could, you know, use and manipulate. Because look, usually criminals are informants, right? Usually someone's, you know, trying to work off time or something like that. There's a give and a take. Right? You don't just give some random person full access and a recording device who recording device who you have nothing over him to control him, you know?
Right.
And then that's what they did with him is like, hey, well, we're going to give you this recording device and just, we know that you're going to do great, right? We know that you're going to record everything you're supposed to. We have absolutely nothing over you to control you and make sure you do the right thing. We just trust you that we're going to do it. And that's another reason that makes me believe that these guys knew each other prior to this. And this was a conspiracy with them against people who really care about freedom to essentially make money and get better job positions and make more money off putting people in cages.
Mm-hmm. Now you talk about the FBI having something to control over the informant to get them to do what they want. Another one of the informants, his name is Stephen Robinson. He was a convicted felon with crimes that include theft, insurance fraud, and sex with a minor. Do you think maybe they could easily manipulate this guy to say exactly what they want and do exactly what they want?
Yeah, kind of textbook.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one thing that never came out in court, because the judge, like, he ran so much interference and said that things that were so clearly obvious that benefited us and exposed the government, the judge shut it down. And there's a social situation where Steve Robeson, Dan Chappell, an undercover agent, another undercover agent, and another informant are all talking with each other. And look, they're not supposed to know that each other's are informants. They're not supposed to know that. And they're literally talking to each other, telling each other, hey man, I'm in this till the wheels fall off. You know, listen, I'm not going to try to get people to do illegal shit unless I have to, you know, because we don't want to just get caught up for storytelling. You know what I'm saying? Right. But I'll tell you what, I'll get them to do whatever I have to do. I'm here till the wheels fall off. And that's something that you can't, that's irrelevant in court. Come on, bro.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Now, another informant, her name was Jenny Plunk, and her mission was to keep Croft within the group's good graces. So you have this group that you're worried is going to pull off this plot, but you have an FBI agent whose sole job is to keep one of the supposedly top guys in the group, keep him in the good graces of the group. What's the point there besides we want to see this thing through?
Right.
You think they want to break up the group, not keep the group together.
Right. And their excuse was, oh, well, if they break up and don't organize or whatever, then they'll just go off and do something violent on their own. So we need to make sure that everyone else believes this person's ideas and stays associated with them so that we can keep everyone safe, right? They're so obsessed with safety, but really you just take that word out and it's really control. You know, these people are psychopaths, bro. That's what they are. They're totally fucking psychopathic.
Now, I had heard you interview on another podcast, on the No Way Jose podcast, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that you had talked about an informant or an agent or a female whose sole job was to like have sex with and provide drugs with people to keep them in the group. Is that true, or am I like dreaming things?
Yeah, so that's Jenny Plunk, the informant that you just mentioned.
Okay.
So is that how she kept Croft within the group, was by giving him drugs and having sex with him? Or this was her job.
Her job was to stay attached to Barry and make sure that Barry showed up at every single event that the FBI set up, right? Wow. So the FBI and informants would set up a meeting. They would get people to come. And if Barry couldn't come, it was Jenny's job to say, no, babe, come on, let's go. I'm going to come pick you up all the way in Delaware. We're going to drive. You're going to drive from Tennessee to Delaware, from Delaware up to Wisconsin, in the middle of Wisconsin, back down to Delaware and down to Tennessee. But you don't have a job. You know what I'm saying? Like, what?
Right.
And that was her job. But that was her job, was to essentially secure the connection between a bunch of people who weren't connected. The informants and the agents are the connection to a disorganized, unconnected group of people, you know, and they need to maintain that connection in order to maintain their narrative.
Mm-hmm. So let's keep talking a little more about the FBI involvement and the people who are involved in this whole case. Tell me a little bit about this guy here. This is. I know you have a little bit to say about this guy. This is Richard Trask. He was one of the agents on the case.
Yeah, this guy right here is big gay. That's about the gayest pictures you can fucking have right there. Jesus, bro. Like, come on, man. Yeah, this guy is a total psychopath though too. He likes beating the shit out of his wife and choking her half to death while right after they get done going to swingers parties, and he likes to watch his wife cuck him. And after he realizes that she makes better noises with the guy that is fucking her than him, then he gets really mad about it and tries to kill her. And yeah, this is the type of person that's working for the federal government, going around and stopping terrorism as he's like bashing his wife's head over the fucking nightstand, you know, putting gashes in her head and strangling her half to death.
Now, does this help the trial against y'all, or did this affect it in any way when this guy, because this guy got arrested a year later, but it was like right in the middle of the trial and shit. So how did this play into it at all, that this guy's arrest in his, I mean, from what I gathered, this isn't his first incident of misconduct or some sort of domestic issues, is it?
No, it's not.
I mean, how first of all, how does this guy stay on the case in the first place? Because I know I was in the military. I know if you get slapped with domestic abuse charges, you can't carry a rifle in the military, and then if you can't carry a rifle, you're out the door, because that's your job, is to carry a rifle. And so, how does somebody like this make it into this position here, and then how does that affect you guys' case?
Well, so, you know, as far as our case is concerned, there wasn't a whole lot that we could do to kind of bring that in, except like, you know, the government knew that they couldn't call this guy to testify, right? They didn't want to call any of their agents involved in the case, you know, besides Dan Chappell, like an informant or something. They didn't want to call anyone who collected any evidence or did anything, because if they did, we were going to be able to cross-examine them and essentially call them on all of their bullshit and their lies. You know what I mean? But they didn't want to call him, and there wasn't a whole lot we could do. Like, okay, yeah, this guy's a psycho. Yeah, he beats his wife, but does it really have anything to do with the case and stuff like that? The only way that it did, not legally, but as far as socially and in the media, I think it helped us out a lot, because that was something else that showed that, hey, this thing's fishy as fuck. Like, it's not what you think it is. You just heard that there was 12 informants involved in this case, and now look, guess what? One of the FBI agents just got fucking arrested, bro, for beating his wife. Like, these are the type of people that were involved in this case. So don't go on just talking about like you knew that there was 12, you know, domestic terrorists that were going to go kidnap the governor and all that shit. That shit ain't real, bro. What you need to do is pay more attention to who were the people who were orchestrating the case and involved in leading the case, and that's the government.
Now, talking about the people involved in leading the case, what about this FBI head guy, the head agent of the Detroit field office, that then coincidentally went on to head up the FBI, or take charge of the January 6th investigation, and then also the Trump raid, Mar-a-Lago raid. Like, this guy is just like shooting up the ladder, because, and it sounds like it started with your case here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think his name's Anthony Duantano or something like that. He's got an interesting last name.
Yeah,
but that
Duantano or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That guy, he was the head of the Detroit field office, right? Okay. So everything that Jason Chambers and Jason Trask and Henrik Impola and all of these other people did ultimately kind of went up to him, and he would give approval for it and things like that. So once he essentially took credit for this fake conspiracy happening, once we got arrested, they promoted him to Washington, D.C. immediately. And then, you know, the J6 stuff happened, right? And he's like, you know, going to be involved in making sure that's safe and okay, and that the government's holding everyone accountable and all that bullshit, right? And then the Mar-a-Lago thing, you know, he's aware of that. But look, guess what? You know what just happened? This guy just quit his fucking job, dude, like a few weeks ago.
Really?
He just said, oh, yeah, dude, he just quit. He's like, you know what? Actually, I don't want to be an FBI agent anymore. See you later. And then just walked away.
I mean, he just padded his resume. You were talking about the other guys wanting to pad their resume. I mean, he's got your case on hand. He's got the January 6th case and then also the Trump raid. And now, he's done everything he needs to. He might as well get out before people start looking into him a little bit. So what's he doing now?
I'm not sure. I read some articles that I believe was from Julie Kelly and American Greatness. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. I can find them, though, because if you look into someone called Radix Verum, her name's Christina, a good friend of mine, she found that stuff as well. And we just thought it was very interesting that once the house was going to turn red or whatever, there was going to be some sort of investigations happening on these people, and there was actually going to be some sort of pushback. So we thought it was kind of funny, like it was a coincidence, like, oh yeah, once you can see this about to happen, now you decide to just back away from all of it, kind of like the Fauci thing, right? Like Fauci's just like, well, see you later. Like, I'm not about to get in trouble for this shit, and if I stay in this position, I'm going to.
Right. Yeah, people are going to start looking into it eventually, and when they do, I want to be as far away as I can possibly be. Right. And that seemed to be the way that that they operate. We are overdue for a break. Do you got more time because I got plenty more questions to ask. You got more time to talk after this break?
Yeah, I got a little bit more time. I probably got maybe like 40 more minutes.
Okay, perfect. That's about what we have. So we're going to take a quick break. We usually take 2 or 3 minutes to freshen up our drinks and stuff, and then we'll be back with Brandon Caserta, domestic terrorist of the Gretchen Whitmer plot. We'll be right back.
Have you ever thought that maybe voting, maybe all this politics constantly surrounding you is not the way to achieve freedom in your life? Hi, I'm Remso W. Martinez, and I ask myself the same question. That's why I'm on a journey to find true freedom in my lifetime. From learning about financial independence to new ways to develop rugged individualism to amazing guests living strange, crazy, amazing lifestyles that you've only thought might be real but actually are. Go ahead and check out my new show, On the Run with Remso W. Martinez at the We Are Libertarians Network. You can find On the Run with Remso W. Martinez on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play. You know how the internet works. Come on down and let's discover how to achieve real freedom in your life together.
Hey everybody, I just want to take this time to give a big shout out to the very first sponsor of the Break the Bell podcast. That is Goulash Media. They can be found at goulashmedia.net. Goulash Media specializes in graphic design, web design, audio recordings, video work, wedding videos, music videos, even political campaign videos. Goulash Media caters to the little guy with the big vision. You can check them out at goulashmedia.net. That's GOULASH media.net.
And we are back talking with Brandon Caserta. He's accused kidnapping plotter of the Gretchen Whitmer plot. So yeah, I mean, some crazy shit we've been talking about. Definitely, we just got done talking about the FBI involvement and how deeply entrenched they were and how big of shitbags the people that were involved were in it. I mean, we talked about the guy who bashed his head over the nightstand. We talked about
his wife's head.
Yeah, his wife's head over the nightstand because he didn't like how she interacted at a swingers party, which, I mean, we could probably talk for an hour about that, go through the psychology of that individual.
Or the FBI agent who had to like put out to keep the guy involved. That's got to be fun.
Yeah, it's like I want to advance women in the police force in the federal agency. So what can I do? You're gonna fuck the people to keep them in the group.
Because I need a promotion.
Yes. So, Brandon, we got you back for a little bit longer. Anything else you got about the FBI? Because we can move on. That was all I had with them. But
yeah, I mean, we can move on. But just the main thing I want people to know is that when these things happen to people like me, don't let that scare you away from speaking out against tyranny. You know what I mean? Don't let that. Don't allow them to make you think that, oh, well, this would just happen to me. I might as well never act or never expose it or never talk about it because, I'm just going to get victimized like this or whatever because these agencies are like so powerful and everything. They're not. Dude, these agencies are disintegrating themselves. They're eating themselves alive, because they're immoral. And I just don't want people to, get too scared and not want to speak freely about what they believe. Just try to maybe put a little bit extra context in so that if someone is like listening, they can't take it out of context because you provided the context for it, like right in the sentence, you know, and there's a lot of stuff that we didn't get to talk about as far as like certain documentation that I have that their reasoning on actually investigating me and what those reasons were. Those reasons were all totally legal, totally protected speech, First Amendment stuff, Second Amendment stuff, and things like that. But I do want to mention there's going to be a lot more coming out too, because I'm currently making a documentary right now with Radix Verum, and it's called Patriot Conspiracy. Right. And we got quite a bit of footage, man, and it's gonna be looking real good. This is gonna be a huge hit against these guys.
Wow. Yeah, I wanted to. The reason I reached out last week or the week before was because I had seen you had posted a teaser for the documentary. So I did want to get into that and ask you a little bit about that and talk to us as much as you can or as much as you're willing to about this documentary, what's it about, and what's involved and stuff. Because I'm definitely going to watch it.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, just go ahead and talk about that as much as you want.
So, I'm assisting in this documentary. A lot of it's going to be about me and my experience. But really, it's Christina's. Really, it's Radix Verum. She's putting all this work behind it. She's putting all the effort behind it with editing and traveling and talking to people and film equipment and all that stuff. So this is really kind of like her thing. I'm just a part of it because I can help her get connected with certain people that might be too scared to speak, but if they talk with me, then they'll be like, okay, you said that she was cool. Okay, cool. Then I'll talk to him. I got her in contact with Barry and Barry's involved and we're not going to allow the state to perpetuate this lie. We're not going to allow that. As long as I'm out here free, I'm not going to allow that to happen. The truth is going to come out, and there's a lot of good material to look forward to. And I would suggest going to her YouTube channel as well and subscribing to her because she's got a lot of good material as well.
Cool. Now, is it specifically focused on this case or is it involving other incidences with the FBI and corruption and stuff? Or is it just solely this case?
Yeah, so we came up with the name Patriot Conspiracy because essentially, like OKC and all of these like scenarios, right, where the FBI was obviously acting very suspicious and, pretty much like created it, right? We touch on those and that old, it used to be called COINTELPRO, but before that it was PATCON. Specifically when they were going after white militia groups and pro Second Amendment groups and stuff like that back in the 90s, the Waco thing and everything like that. Those operations were under the umbrella of PATCON. And our case, Operation Cold Snap, is also under the umbrella of PATCON. This is the COINTELPRO PATCON, essentially martial art that they're using, that these government agents are using against the public in order to frame them for fake conspiracies. So we bring that up, and then we kind of like segue that into this modern PatCon operation, that just happened with me and everyone else, right? And this fake Fednapping, FBI hoax.
Yeah, and
you're ringing all our bells here, because we've definitely we did a couple episodes about like the 90s, the anti-government groups and the crackdown on those. We talked about the Oklahoma City bombing and Waco and stuff, and we tied them all together. So it's interesting that you're bringing that back around full circle with us, because it's all the same playbook. And I think we even talked about back during that episode, it's like, hey, we're kind of seeing a resurgence of what was going on in the 90s, where they're trying to make this kind of narrative of these white supremacist groups or these anti-government because people are rightfully so pissed off at the government, and so now we have to crack down on this and make it look like anybody who's pissed off at the government obviously is connected to. Back then it was obviously you're like Timothy McVeigh, and now it's like, well, you're just like the Gretchen Whitmer plotters, or now it's the J6er. You're connected to the J6er. So you're speaking out against some of these lockdowns and shit. Are you a Trump supporter? Are you a J6er? Right. And so you just kind of see this resurfacing of the same playbook they were playing in the 90s.
I just saw something, and I was at my dad's last week, and he had the news on, and it said something about looking for a resurgence in domestic terrorists against immigrants now. And I'm like, okay, here we go all over again. So it's like just same old song.
Well, I had seen a guy, he was a head of, I think, one of the intelligence agencies. He came out this week or last week and was saying, if he was warning against domestic terrorism, and he was like, if Timothy McVeigh were around today, he would be mainstream. He would probably be a Republican intern. He would be made it was just like fucking ridiculous, the connections they're making. And they're making the connections with the 90s, and so I feel it's only right that we do
absolutely
too. So did this this COINTEL or whatever, did that go away, or is this the same exact umbrella, or like a reformation of it, or is it something that, hey, they're just copying what they were doing back then? Because, I mean, for a while there, you didn't hear a lot of this crackdown on domestic terrorism and shit, like especially like early 2000s, because we're all focused on
9/11 took over.
Yeah, we're focused on outside terrorism, not inside terrorism.
Yeah, and back then, well, essentially, yes, it is the same thing, but it's on steroids now. Back then, they still had their media propaganda, but they have to combat people like us. Like, we are annihilating them in the arena of truth. Like, people like us are decimating CNN Plus. These people can't even get their shit off the ground because some dude in his bedroom or some, woman in her kitchen pulls her laptop out and starts making videos and speaking truth. And now she's got 500,000 followers. You know what I mean? And they're having a problem with that. So what they're trying to do is essentially use this old like PatCon conspiracy stuff and realize, hey, wait a second, remember that shit that we did in the 90s to make these people look scary? Look, these are the people that are actually speaking out against our tyranny that we're trying to conduct against them. They're in our way. We need to figure out a way to frame them socially in society, to ostracize them from society, and make sure that these ideas don't propagate through this land that we're trying to dominate. And a great way to do that is to start making up fake conspiracies around these people and framing them in the public eye, making an example out of them and shutting them up so they quit exposing your tyranny that you're trying to conduct against them.
Now, do you think they are scrambling so much harder and working so much harder because information is so much more free? Because you see all this like fight against like free media and shit, like the big deal that they made just because Elon Musk was like, hey, we're going to allow free speech on this platform. And then all of a sudden he was like, had a target on his back just for saying those words. And all like with social media and stuff these days, yeah, it is it is regulated to a certain extent, but you and I both know there is so many ways to get free information out there that they didn't possess in the 90s. It was so much easier to put a lid on it in the 90s and control the narrative in the 90s. It's so much harder now. Do you think that's why they're ramping it up so much harder?
Yes, I do believe that's exactly why. Before they could just kind of put out a couple little news segments and show you what's on the news. Now, dude, a lot of people, like, they don't really give a shit about the news. They don't really care. They listen to like their own person that they feel like they connect with. They might have a group of people and they listen to them on their way home, like home from work or whatever. And they don't, sit there and try to, they're using the internet for their news and information. They're no longer using the TV. The TV is traded spaces to like just be like blind entertainment, like Netflix. There's no like, they try to throw political like subtle things in there, you know what I mean? But really it's just entertainment. It's no like, constant information because the news organizations are losing, you know what I mean? They're losing the battle in the arena of truth, and they have to, step their game up, because if people start realizing that they're free, and if people start realizing the principles of self-defense and firearm ownership, and then start realizing their identity and what they believe in, the state's trying to push out all this propaganda, and this corporate media trying to push out all this propaganda to get young kids confused about their gender and their identity. And if you get someone confused about their identity and they don't know who they are, you can fucking control them. And that's what they're trying to do. So they don't want people like us saying, hey, you know what, you should buy a firearm and train with it. Hey, you know what, you should know what your rights are. Hey, you know what, you have the right to self-defense. We are free and we deserve it.
Right,
understand what your identity is and know who you are and know what you believe in. So they have to step that up because they're losing the battle. And these people, they're not very good at creating certain things, right? But they are very good at co-opting something that was already invented or created it, and then manipulating it and transforming it into what they want it to be. But they're not like truly creative with heart-based intelligence.
Right. So back to the documentary. Is there a set release date for that? Is it done, or is she still working on it, or when can we expect that?
So, I would say probably, summertime. Okay. I would start looking around then. Okay. We still have like a whole nother segment, right? We still have more filming to do with me. And then, as long as our editor stays around, he's a super cool dude. He's into it too. Like, he's passionate about it. You know what I'm saying? Good. Just like, we are. So as long as he sticks around and everything's cool, it's probably going to be released around then. Christina knows a lot more than I do about it. I'm just trying to put it out there so people know about it, but it is coming out and it is going to be dropped. All I know is we got one more session with me and her to do some filming, and then she's handling a lot of the rest of the stuff. Okay. Once that's over with, then it's going to get edited and dropped. So we're thinking like June, July, something around there.
Oh, we'll definitely have to have you back on to talk about that around that time frame. Have you guys got any pushback from it yet moving forward? Has she got pushback?
Well, what's actually funny is the government helped us in this situation because during Barry Croft's sentencing the other day, he was sentenced to 19 and a half years in federal prison. And, Radix Verum had a interview with him, and recorded it because they have video kiosks in the jail where you can, have sound and video, right? And she was like, hey, do you want anything to say about, or do you want to say anything about what's going on? Like, what do you want to tell the American people and stuff like that? And so Nils Kessler, the prosecutor, decided it was a great idea to, because he had the material recorded because it's in the jail, so he can access that thing. You know what I mean? It's not like he got it from her, right? But he used that and then tried to paint him out to be a terrorist because he quoted the founding fathers and, always referenced the Constitution. He kept referencing the Constitution, right, over and over again. And, this is why you should give this person life in prison. So what wound up happening is all the media people in the corporate media in the courtroom are like, dude, where the fuck did this come from? Like, we never heard about this. They find out it's Christina's work, and they're like hitting her up, dude. Like, dude, can we buy that material? Where did you get some of this material? Like, can we get some and stuff like that? So it's like, hey, thanks guys. You just wanted to pull this bullshit in court and think it's going to work in your favor, and all you did was just promote our documentary that we're about to drop to slap you in the face.
Right, free promotion to all the press out there without even having to lift a finger. Yeah, that works out for you all. Perfect. The guy that got 19 and a half years, the Barry Croft, were you there for his trial, his sentencing?
No, I wasn't there for the sentencing, but I was there in the trial, the first trial and the second trial for them. The first trial I was acquitted. They got a mistrial, so they retried him again in the second trial. But yeah, I was there for the second one, but when he just got sentenced, I was not able to make it there. But I did listen in. I listened in on the phone.
And part of that was they try to implicate him with like weapons of mass destruction or something like that.
Yeah,
Is that right?
I was going to ask about that, like, because you see that on Wikipedia. He got charged with attempt to possess weapons of mass destruction. Where did that come from?
So, dude, that's crazy because that's like one of the biggest bullshit charges ever. You know what Barry did? Barry took fireworks from that he bought and, modified them a little bit to make them go boom a little bit better. You know what I mean? This guy never tried to get a bomb or anything like that. He was fucking with, smokeless gunpowder and shit. That's the type of shit that they use, against him in court. Yeah. And then the WMD shit was pretty much like, well, he agreed with our undercover agent to get, weapons of mass destruction from him. So it's a conspiracy that, he agreed to because look at all these fireworks that he's fucking with, and he's obviously dangerous.
Yeah.
So, I can't believe that happened, dude. But
is it something he can appeal, or is he just fucked?
I mean, he's going to do 19 and a half years for this entire thing. Yeah. And when we're talking about Fed prison, he's probably going to do half of that or a little bit. He's going to do like 60, 70% of that time.
Are we talking Leavenworth?
What's Leavenworth?
The federal the penitentiary down there. It looks like a country club.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard about that. I don't know. I doubt it's going to be like that. He's probably going to go to a straight up fucking prison. But federal prison is better than any other time that you could do. It's better than state time. It's better than county time. County time's the hardest time. The time that I did, that 18 months, that's the hardest time you're ever going to have in a bit. And he's going to probably do like 10 years, and then get out.
Now what changed? Because you had said he got his first trial was a mistrial, and then the second one he gets charged or sentenced to 19 and a half years. What changed between the first and the second that went from, there's not enough here, we got a mistrial, to, hey, this guy needs locked up for 19 and a half years?
Well, essentially, it was like the judge and the prosecution realized, like, oh, shit, we fucked up. Like, we didn't keep enough stuff out. You know what I mean? And the judge is like, sorry, bro. Like, I thought you guys had it. You know what I mean? They're like, no, man, you should have shut that shit down. So come the second trial, the prosecution's like, hey, we're going to try these guys again. And then they kept even more information out, because now there's less people, and the judge was doing crazy shit, bro, like allowing these important witnesses to testify for the government and giving the government unlimited time, and then saying, oh, the defense, you guys want to get down to the truth and you want to cross-examine this witness, you got 20 minutes. Wow. And then it's done with. Like, there's no way to defend yourself. That's like saying you're about to get in a fight with someone and they're like, look, you're going to get down on your knees and put one hand behind your back. It's like, how the fuck am I supposed to win then if you're going to hinder me like that?
Now, how do you justify that as like a non-biased trial by jury when there's like, clearly you would think there'd be precedent for an appeal of some sort here because of how this trial was clearly biased against him.
Wouldn't that be a case of double jeopardy?
Well, no, the first was a mistrial.
Oh, it was a mistrial. Okay.
Yeah, and come to find out, only one person got in the way of that. There was one juror who said no, they are guilty, and everyone else said they weren't guilty.
Oh shit.
You know, and for me personally, I believe that, look, if the government's supposed to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, well, if they can't agree, if a jury can't agree, that's your reasonable doubt right there. The government shouldn't have unlimited chances to take people to trial over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always thought that was odd. It's like you think they'd have to, for beyond reasonable doubt, you'd have to come to a unanimous decision, or it should be
it's out.
An acquittal.
It's done.
Should be. Well, they can't decide, and that's your trial by jury. We shouldn't just be like, oh, the jury can't decide. Let's bring in another
trial. Let's do another one
and try to convince these guys.
Yeah.
But hey, let's keep some of the information out that maybe raised some questions the first time. Now, do you believe? Did you get a sense that that they had to have some sort of conviction here to kind of whitewash their massive fuck up in this whole thing?
Send a big message?
Yes, absolutely. That's why they did what they did, because they realized that they fucked up, you know, and oh my God, like the truth actually got out there. You know, these defense attorneys, these regular defense attorneys, you know, they thought that the government thought they could crush them. You know what I'm saying? And this was a true story of David versus Goliath, you know, where the small guy came out and said, you know what, fuck you. I believe in truth. I'm going to fucking fight against you and I'm going to win. You're not going to control me, you know? And they lost against that. So they realized, oh my God, Brandon Caserta and Daniel Harris just fucked our entire shit up by not being a coward and admitting to something that they didn't do. So now we're fucked on that. We have to get these guys, because all the other state cases and all the other people involved hinge on this one federal case with these 6 guys right here. And 2 of them just got acquitted, and the jury couldn't come to a decision on these guys. So we need to try them again, and we need to put these guys in a cage, because we're about to lose the entire fucking narrative.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I remember I had seen an article. I had pulled up an article that was right after you got acquitted in the mistrial. And it was basically, the article headline was like, the case against the plotters is falling to pieces. And so I'm sure the feds read this and they're like, we got to get somebody on this. We got to hammer somebody on this. Now, what happened to the other? Because 2 got sentenced within the last week or so. What happened to the other 2? Because there was, you 2 got the mistrial and then you 2 got acquitted, then the mistrials. What happened to the other 2?
Yeah, so Ty Garbin, he, you know, when we first got arrested, he immediately flipped and started snitching on everyone.
Wow.
And essentially, he just agreed to work for the government and just tell the government's story. Like, it's not like he's providing this information on this real thing. He's just, you know, telling the government, like, hey, I'll say whatever you want me to say if you're going to give me less time, you know, and that's exactly what happened. He did that right when he got arrested.
Right. So... now you talked about the video that she took of Barry Croft, and I watched it a little bit, and you talked about how he was defending the Constitution. They tried to use this against him. Where did we get to the point in our history where talking about the Constitution was like evidence of domestic terrorism? Right. Like how have we gotten to this point?
I have no idea. It would just have to be the public education system and the mass propaganda machine, you know, the MK Ultra, the Operation Mockingbird, CIA psyops going on, and the dumbing down of society, you know, with certain types of foods and chemicals and stuff. It's just like making people confused and weak and not knowing who the fuck they are. And you know, a lack of real masculinity in society, you know, without these things that normally a healthy society would have, or a healthy society should have some of these qualities, but they are taking them away from society. And because of that, we're, you know, having certain outcomes of things just be totally crazy and ridiculous and not make any sense at all. I mean, these people are literally using the Constitution as their authority to bring you to court, you know? And then it's like, they bring you to court and try to convict your ass for talking about the document that they just fucking said they used to put you in this fucking cage.
Right.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, because like you were saying, he was talking about the founding fathers and the Constitution and stuff. And anytime you bring up any of that shit within the last 4 or 5 years, it's like, well, obviously you're one of those guys. It's like even the term patriot has been taken as a term of basically domestic terrorist or a Trump supporter or something. Like, you can't even say you love your country anymore, and it's just bizarre. Like, you say you're a patriot, that means all of a sudden you must hate the establishment we have going on here. It's like, isn't that the opposite of what patriot means?
Right.
And like, there's a certain level of patriotism to the point where it's just like, I love my country to the point where I want to preserve what it stands for, not what these people up here are making it. Right. And that's the scary thing to them is, well, these guys want to make this what it was meant to be in the first place, and we can't have that because we're going off on this agenda here, and that bypasses the Constitution so far. And so when people start quoting the Constitution, when people like yourself or like Barry Croft are educated enough to be able to quote the Constitution and actually explain what it means. Right. That's
dangerous for them.
Yeah, you're talking about intelligent individuals, and we don't like intelligent individuals because they might be able to stand up for themselves.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, you talked about your time in jail a little bit and said how miserable it was. Then you got acquitted. How long did you say you served time?
I did a total of 18 months.
Holy shit! I didn't realize it was that long. And you said that was miserable. After the fact, so your trial was ridiculous, like you said. You get acquitted because it was obviously ridiculous. After the trial, what had your life been like? I'd seen one of the first interviews you did. I think it was with Fox News, and they said you had been laying low and stuff, and clearly now you're not laying low. Did you go through a point where you're like, I don't want to make a lot of noise for myself or like hinder all these other trials, or did you just not want to talk to anybody?
Yeah, I mean, it was both of those. You know what I mean? I knew there was other stuff going on, but I also knew that I needed to take some serious time to myself and do some self-reflection. Not because I did anything wrong or anything, but because of what the fuck just happened to me. Right. You know, I get released, and I'm on the TV, on the news, and there's all this stuff. So many people are saying all these things about me, and it's just like, dude, I'm just a regular ass guy. Like, they put me in this like fake thing that the government made up and tried to make it seem real, and it failed. And now my face is fucking plastered everywhere. Like, look, I don't give a shit about any of that. Like, I'm trying to build my life back together because the FBI fucking destroyed it, dude. They took my job, everything I had, dude, money, everything gone, dude. You know what I'm saying? They took all my guns and shit. Now I got all that shit back, right? But there was certain things like my job and my house and stuff that is gone. And, you know, as a grown man, I'm 34 years old. Like, look, dude, I got to build up from scratch again. And that shit takes time, and that shit's hard. So I really wanted to think about what just happened to me, and then just start focusing on putting the pieces back together so that I can be more successful and more superior than where I was at when I got arrested. And I've already surpassed that, especially the past few months of my life right now. So now it's kind of at the point where it's like, all right, bro, your shit's together. You know what I'm saying? You're doing what you need to do. Now it's time to really fucking speak out against them, you know?
Now, moving forward, do you find yourself, are you going to be more of a, like an advocate or are you going to continue down this road of advocacy for things like this? Or are you going to be more of, do you feel or find the need that to be public and to kind of be the face of this, like speaking out against this shit? Or do you see this as, after this documentary, I'm just going to go live a normal life? Like what are your intentions moving forward, I guess?
essentially with this situation, brother, the government just gave me a platform to expose them. This is shit that I've already wanted to do, is go on podcasts and speak truth and share information with people and bring more people together about these principles and about freedom and about training with firearms and about all these things that I love and I enjoy and I want to preserve. And all they did was they fucked up by framing me and gave me a platform to continue to expose their ass. And I'm going to do this shit for as long as it takes to wake society up. I'm going to continue to do this until everyone wakes up. Like, that's when I'm done, and I have my own obligations, right? I got my own life I got to take care of. I got to feed myself. I got to do all this stuff, right? But
sure.
Ultimately I feel a duty and kind of an obligation to, as long as there's other people out there getting victimized by the state and getting victimized by, even private criminals, right? As long as there's immorality happening in the world, then, it needs to be exposed. The truth needs to be shined on it, and people need to know about it. Knowledge is power for real, and I'm all about spreading that knowledge. So the more opportunities I get, I plan on making this just an upward trajectory, as fast as I can go, and I never plan on stopping.
So, do you find because you've already served time, do you find yourself, like, when you're making these plans, like, I got my platform, I'm going to speak out against this, do you, like, have in the back of your head, I've got a line that I can't cross because I don't want to end up in that situation again? Or are you just like, I'm all in on this now because I've already been there, done that, I have the t-shirt, I'm all in? Or do you set lines for yourself where it's just like, well, I'm not going to go there, I'm not going to, I mean, either way, I'm not going to say you're wrong, because nobody wants to, especially after having been there, wants to put yourself back in that position. But on the other hand, you seem like you're like, fuck it, I'm all in on this.
Right. Like they lit a fire.
Yeah, I mean, look, when the government goes for it, they hit. You know what I'm saying? They usually hit. And they missed. They're not going to, if anything happens to me, it's going to be off the books. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be off the books. It's going to be a secret op where I, got Epsteined, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how it's going to go down if anything happens. And the only person that can control that is me. Like, I can only defend myself, right? So I'm not going to live my life in fear because of some shit that these other people in the government did. Unfortunately, it's like, if they choose to go after you, bro, like, you're going to get got. Right. You know what I mean? If you don't know they're looking after you, you're going to get got. Just, it doesn't matter, what it is. If they don't like it, they're going to come after you. But like I was saying before, I'm not going to let that stop me. I have truth on my side, bro. Truth is way more powerful than the lie. Right. And if I die speaking for truth and fighting for freedom, then look, that's how it happens. You know what I mean?
I feel like that would be more fulfilling of a life than being the guy that flipped as soon as you got arrested and being I'll do whatever you say, just don't take everything from me. Like, you're an example of, look, there's injustice. You're one of few examples that, like, the injustice happened and you got that flipped or turned around where now you can speak out against it. Like, there's so many people that it happens to them and then they're just fucked the rest of their life, or they spend the rest of their life in jail, or worse, they just disappear, like you were saying. And it's just like, you're one of few examples where you're on this side of it, where now you can actually speak out against it because you made it out of that thing.
Yeah, I see it as a blessing. I was extremely blessed, and life handed me lemons, bro. And I'm making all the fucking lemonade, bro, for everybody. Drink this shit.
Now, you had mentioned a little bit early in the show, you wanted people to, like, your message to people was not to be afraid of even after everything that you've gone through. You don't want this to be the reason that they're afraid to speak out, the reason that they're afraid to push against things that they see as tyrannical government and stuff. I don't know what your views are, but, like, how far do you think, I mean, we've talked about, like, what's our line, like, because there's certain lines that, like, you're not going to take up arms against the police because they pulled you over. You talked about that. It's like, yes, they might have pulled you over for some bullshit charge, but some things just aren't worth making your life harder over. But I guess for you, like, what do you tell people? Like, where's the line, or when's the line, or because the whole thing is they don't want you knowing that this Constitution, this government was set up so if you don't like what's going on, we have the power to change that one way or another. I mean, that's what it was founded on. It's in the Declaration of Independence, and if you quote those certain statements out of the Declaration of Independence, you're immediately a terrorist. Yeah. So I guess what's your advice to people? Like, how hard do we push, or like where do we go with the government that we're set up that's so heavily stacked against us?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the avenue that we need to take is the one we're doing right now, right? We need to use freedom of speech to combat the lie. That is super important for us to do that. And it's might be difficult to, like, it's kind of hard, right, to get someone else to change their beliefs. Right. It's difficult to do that, but if we can just put that information out there and kind of guide people, it will, I think that will help wake them up. Now, it's harder to control. The government wants to control what people think, but people like us don't want to do that. We want you to come to the conclusion yourself, right? So in our personal lives, what we have to do is create independence from the system. And that is very empowering, right? So that involves acquiring knowledge and information, understanding self-defense and knowing how to do that. Anything that might make you reliant upon the government or somebody else, try to learn that skill and do that skill, and that the more people that do that, the more people that free their minds. There doesn't have to be a violent revolution. None of that has to happen. Right. There are so much more of us than there are of them. Just like that cartoon Ants or whatever, where the grasshoppers are like, dude, if they understand how powerful they are, we're done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We can gang up on one of them, and select certain people and stuff like that. But if they realize that they could literally just ignore us into irrelevance, we're done, dude. It's over with. Right. We don't even need to go to war or use violence or anything. We just, enough people have to say, you know what? I'm not complying with you. Guess what? Oh, income tax? Not paying it. It's not legit. Right. You don't have enough people to go get everybody. You know what I'm saying? You don't. And if they're willing to defend themselves, you're done. Your control's over. It's gonna be like a crazy guy running around in the park talking about, like, give me your money, give me $5. You know what I'm saying? And everyone's like, what? Who's this fucking crazy ass guy? Like, I'm not doing anything for him. Like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? This guy's a bum, dude. That's what's gonna happen. But more people need to wake up and realize that it doesn't have to be violent. None of that shit has to happen. It's just that we need to keep acquiring knowledge and taking care of each other as human beings, and being like, hey, you know what? Your beliefs are a little bit different than mine, and that's okay. But just as long as you don't want me to be enslaved, maybe we can have a conversation, Right.
And we've talked about that several times on the show, about learning the skills and stuff and learning to be independent. And a big thing that we talk about is you can't learn all the skills. You can't be an expert at everything. And that's where networking comes in. It's like, I don't know shit about meat processing. I hook up with somebody that does, like, you're not going to learn everything, but then you network with like-minded people that do have skills that you don't have, and hooking up with people, obviously keeping your ear open and realizing who's a Fed and who's not. But but that's networking plays a big role in that, because again, we're not going to know everything. But if we know people that know things, then and we form our own communities that are willing to ignore all these ridiculous regulations too, then it's pretty dangerous for them, because hey, people are actually surviving without us. When the people realize they don't need the government, that's when the government has a problem, because they keep forming all these committees and subcommittees, and and organizations and task force and subcommittees for the task force, and charging it to our bank account in the name of income tax or sales tax or whatever tax. Once we come to realize, hey, we don't fucking need that, then they are out jobs and they're out the wealth that they've accumulated, and then that's dangerous to them. And that's what all the pushback is, we can't have people realizing that they don't need us.
Yes, absolutely.
And do you think that's, I feel like that's why there's actually the big push against the Second Amendment. It's not the school shootings. It's not the mass shootings. It's like you said, it's like, well, if you're armed as well, if you're willing to defend yourself, then what are they going to do? If you take all the guns, then we're just like some of these other countries out here, like Canada or something, where it's just like they're at the border holding up signs saying, save us from ourselves, because our government is a piece of shit. Well, you handed over all your guns, and that was kind of the start of the downfall of your country up there.
Yes.
So
moving forward, how do you trust like somebody again? Like knowing that, knowing what just happened, how do you let someone in your inner circle? I mean, will you always be questioning like, okay, who the fuck is this guy? What does he want?
Bro, I think my own girlfriend's a fucking fag.
Yeah.
For real, bro. Like that's kind of how it is right now. There's certain family members and stuff that I know for a fact, like, I trust them with my life,
right.
And I guess that's just how it is, but you just gotta be careful and use discernment. And, I was never someone who was always like doing bad shit and illegal shit or whatever. So I never really worried about that. I do pretty simple things, and as long as someone isn't like trying to get me to do something criminal, there's really they don't have shit. They already tried to make some shit up. And this time, if they're going to fucking do it again, they really need something, dude. Like, you got to come up with something.
Right.
So if someone's not like talking crazy, you know what I'm saying, and trying to get me to do some shit, I'm cool.
Right.
And then once that starts happening, then you're like, okay, this is like totally Fed posting. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
This might not be right.
Yeah.
And it depends on what it's about and stuff like that. But, I want everyone that I know to make as much money as they possibly can in any way that they can. Make all the money that you can, bro. I hope everyone that I know turns into fucking billionaires, dude, and makes it to where the government can't do shit to them. You know what I'm saying? And that's how it should be. So however, if you like to do shit like that, go for it, bro. I don't, do you.
Right. Do you got any final advice to give to our listeners out there from your massive troves of life experience in the last couple of years? We're about out of time. Any final things you want to say before we let you go?
One thing I always say is to stay armed and stay free. If you stay armed, you will stay free no matter what. That's the last resort. Keep acquiring knowledge, keep listening to this podcast, right? Listen to all the fucking podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Continue to absorb information that's positive and good. Understand morality. You need to understand that morality is objective. It's not a human construct in the mind that doesn't exist. Morality has real effects in the world that affect people, and behaviors that happen in the world create certain conditions like freedom or slavery, right? That's based off human behavior and whether it's moral or not. So understanding those dynamics and self-defense and everything like that, you will automatically empower yourself, because you'll come to an understand. You'll start to know when something happens in the world. Most people are like, why did that happen? That's crazy. That's just so horrible. Why did it happen? You no longer have to ask yourself that. You'll know exactly why it happened. And you'll understand yourself even better because you did the internal work to understand what's going on in this world that you live in. And as long as we keep doing that, we're going to create better people in the world. And, tyranny cannot exist in a society that's moral. Tyranny can only exist in a society that's immoral.
Right.
So let's change that shit.
Right.
Well, Brandon, this has been an awesome interview. We've learned a lot of shit. We've heard your story, your side of the story, and then we've also gotten your knowledge that you've gained from it. And I guess, if nothing else, just the fact that you come out with some sort of knowledge and some sort of wisdom that you can pass on, I guess that alone is worth it, in my opinion, to just be like, look, I went through this shit. I want to help you be more free and not have to deal with the shit I went through. I mean, that, to me, that's a success in my book. Brandon, let us know where people can find more about you, find out about the documentary you got coming out, anything you want to plug, you can plug it right now.
All right, so if you want to find out more about the documentary, subscribe to Radix Verum, RADIXVERUM. Her name's Christina. She's got a great YouTube channel. You can also follow her on Twitter at NotRadix, and you can find me on Twitter, Brandon_Caserta. You can find me on Instagram at Kinetic Truth. You can find me on Facebook. Just Google my name. And yeah, if you want to talk about freedom and talk about rights, just hit me up, man. Just as long as you're not a Fed, bro, we're cool.
Well, Brandon, this was an awesome conversation. I'd like to get you on again you got all kinds of stuff to talk about, it sounds like, and I'd like to have you on to talk about things that aren't Whitmer plot related at some point and dig in there. So if you're willing, we'd love to have you back on at some point. So thanks for coming on again.
Definitely.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, no problem. We're going to get out of here. This has been an awesome interview. This is Brandon Caserta. He is a accused domestic terrorist, one of the quote-unquote plotters of the Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping plot. Make sure you check him out. Look him up all over freaking social media. He plugged his Twitter, his Instagram, and everything. Follow him and share the shit far and wide, because his story needs to get out there all over the place. If you have a platform, get him on your platform. Get his message out there, because this is an important message, I think.
Absolutely.
What'd you think?
Yeah, I thought it was great. So I'm looking forward to checking out that documentary.
Yeah, me too. So check out all the things Brandon has going on. Make sure you check us out all over social media. You can find us, like I said, at our handle, at Break the Bell Pod. Follow us, like, subscribe, follow our YouTube channel, so we can get this message out to more and more people and do bigger and better things. Got a new year, going into the new year. We're hitting the ground running. I wanted to get a big interview on, a big guest on, like Brandon, and I think we nailed it.
I think so too. It was good.
Have a great rest of your week. Make sure you check out all our other shows. We got our weekend wrap up, which happens obviously on the weekend, which is where we just wrap up a weekend and the entire week in the news. We've got our morning show with me and Dan Smots of the System Is Down podcast. That's the Two Scoops early morning podcast, which is where we just bullshit for about 20 minutes in the morning, so you can wake up and have your coffee or your alcohol, if that's what your choice is, and listen to us bullshit. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. Otherwise, be back here next Monday night, same time, same channel. We'll have another banger for you, hopefully. Have a great rest of your week. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
The Break the Bell podcast is brought to you by you. So pat yourself on the back, because without you, we would be talking to ourselves. A special thanks to our Patreon members, Justin Zielinski, Remzo Martinez, Stephanie Parker, and T.O. Jacobson. A shout out to our sponsors, Run Your Mouth Coffee, the On the Run podcast, and Goulash Media. If you'd like to help support us, visit patreon.com/breakthebell or buy our garbage at breakthebell.bigcartel.com. Get back here next week and let us continue to invade your ear holes. And as always, never stop talking.